guys, it's Reagan and welcome to the start of a very extra special challenge-based reading vlog. This reading vlog is one that's honestly been one I've been meaning to do for years, and it's very much inspired by the sponsor of this video, which is Moomins. Hi friends, I'm so excited to say that this video is actually sponsored by Moomins. That's right, one of the most iconic literary figures of our time is sponsoring this video. And that is because Moomins is working to make a big splash in America with a very special collection of items and books available now at Barnes & Noble, in stores, and online. And I'm going to show a preview of some of the items you're actually able to shop. But first, if you're not familiar, a bit more about Moomins and also how they're inspiring this video. So Moomins is again an iconic illustrated figure first introduced in 1945. From there, Moomins exploded. There's books, there's television shows that has been adapted to over 120 different countries. I personally grew up on the Moomins cartoon. It's just so fun and silly and delightful. And needless to say, I have had a love for Moomins my entire life. In general, I would say I have always just kept and tried to foster all of the loves of my childhood throughout my life. Not only does it make me feel nostalgic, but I think just like constantly saving a space in your heart for those things that brought you delight growing up for the first time, I just think is important and very, very special, which is what this whole vlog is actually going to be about. Moomins is inspiring me to actually re-check out one of my all-time favorite series that I have not read since I read it for the first time when I was a kid, which I'm really excited to explore and share throughout this video. But before we dive into that in more specifics, let's show off some of the amazing items you're now able to shop at Barnes & Noble. First, the physical items, and I will of course include a close-up, but I have this adorable little Moomins notebook, which comes with the cutest little pencil. But not only is it just stunning and practical, but it also has some fantastic little illustrations at the bottom of the page. I love this. This is going in my purse for any note-taking I may need to have. I also have this adorable little mug I can't wait to drink tea out of, and it's just a really stunning little illustrated piece. We know I love to collect mugs. And then lastly, I have this stunning little pin, which will be going on my backpack right away. And then of course we have books. First up, we have a novel by Tove Jansson, because outside of Moomins, she also has a variety of novels to read and enjoy as well, which are available within the collection. And this one is the summer book. And I also have Moomin Papa's Memoirs, which is a really, really cute fairy tale-esque chapter book, which I can't wait to reread. And we also have Moomins and the Great Flood. And just something about the illustrations of this that just bring me back. It's beautiful. And then lastly, I have Moomin and the Wishing Star, another stunning illustrated book. As I said, this Moomin collection is available now at Barnes & Noble, in-store and online, and I will of course have a link down below if you guys want to shop the collection. Shout out again to Moomins for sponsoring this video. I love you guys. I will forever have Moomins in my heart, and now officially in my life and on my bookshelf as well. So for this vlog and for this reading week, I wanted to challenge myself to not only read a lot of pages, but to also kind of go back to a beloved thing from my childhood and embrace it and just absorb myself in it once again. This again, I feel like goes right alongside the sponsor of this video, which is Moomin, which is a beloved figure character series from my childhood. So I wanted to carry that into this reading vlog. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better series to do it with than Percy Jackson by Rick Riordan. That's right. Over the course of this week, I'm going to be rereading the entirety of Percy Jackson and the Olympian. So let's get these books in order and we'll go through them one by one. So obviously we have The Lightning Thief. Next is The Sea of Monsters, Titan's Curse, and The Battle of the Labyrinth, and lastly, The Last Olympian. So funny thing about the Percy Jackson series is I have not reread them since I was a kid. I've since then read pretty much every Rick Riordan book that has ever come out. So that's carried me through most of my adulthood as I've experienced so far, because he's just pretty prolific and writes a bunch. But the original series, which I encountered for the first time in 4th grade, which shaped so much of my early reading, my early passions, my excitement for fantasy, my excitement for going to the library, my excitement around Greek mythology, I haven't actually revisited in so long. So I just wanted to do that for this reading vlog. I'm gonna go in definitely with the mindset of just like celebrating it, embracing it, because this is a series that I just loved so much growing up. Obviously I'll be objective, and if my feelings have changed we'll talk about it. But I'm really expecting this to just be like a cozy, really nostalgic, good time. And obviously with the new show or movie coming out on Disney Plus, I also feel like this is a rather apt thing to do as well. But I'm excited to just revisit with Percy and all of his friends, and it's just been so long. Like, I can't believe I read this book for the first time, literally 4th grade, and I remember begging my mom at the time. She worked at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, please mom, can you pre-order like the next book in this series for me so I can get it right away when it comes out? And she did. Absolute mom of the year for that one. But nevertheless, this is going to also be a challenge because this is a lot of pages. I'm also thinking about getting an audiobook for one of them, possibly, because I do want to puzzle, but I also don't want that to slow me down, so I'm a little undecided. But nevertheless, this is the theme of this reading vlog. It's going to be all about embracing childhood favorites. It's going to be all about revisiting a favorite series, and all about reading as much as I can, because I'm going to need to stay focused as well. But I hope you guys are excited about this reading vlog. I know I am. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in and sit down and start reading The Lightning Thief, where it all started, you know? Let's do it. Actually, obviously, before I start officially reading, I'm gonna make myself a cup of tea. So pause. And what tea are we thinking? I'm trying to decide if I should have black tea. Like, is it too late for caffeine? Maybe. I think I'm gonna go with my black tea. Ooh, scandalous, but I do have a lot of pages to read, so I feel like the caffeine is justified. To be determined though. Let's grab it. A Cupid's organic breakfast tea is still going very strong. So we're gonna heat this up. All right, everyone, it's all happening. I'm not playing Switch. Whoa, this is kind of awkward with one hand. But I have my tea, I have Millie. Of course, I have Percy Jackson and The Lightning Thief. Let's get started. I've wrapped up work. I've already read 50 pages, flew through it, obsessed. It's all coming back to me. But I've been making dinner. I'm just making one of my go-to recipes from one of my favorite cookbooks, which is the Molly Baz Cook This Book cookbook. It's great. And it's almost done. It has 32 seconds left according to my timer. It's just a chicken and rice with like a lemony yogurt with like pistachios and snap peas. It's just honestly really easy and really delicious. So the countdown is on. Watching Real Housewives, and obviously we'll get back to Percy Jackson. I'll also do a sit down like initial reaction to restarting The Lightning Thief for the first time in so long. Officially in bed, and I'm about to have myself a bit of a little mini reading sprint. Clay leaves out of town for a work trip tomorrow, so I'll definitely be doing a lot more reading over the next couple days, but I'm going to read another chunk of The Lightning Thief. And I love this book. It's crazy to think I have not read this story since I probably read it. I might have read it when I was reread it when I was a kid too, but it's been probably since early middle school, late elementary school since I've read this book. But it feels like so much time. Like, it doesn't feel like that much time has passed. Like, it's bananas to me how much of the story has stuck with me, and so it feels so comforting to read. It's also just so engaging right out the bat. It's also so fun to interact with the Rick Riordan like origin story to this entire world and series that kicks off into so many other books. But we have Percy, our lovable little idiot who always gets in trouble at all of the different schools he goes to, and it's not because he's a bad kid, it's because he's different. And the different part about him is he's a demigod, and he's about to go to this extra special summer camp with his BFF Grover, and I just can't wait to see it all play out. Percy's voice is just so likable, and I don't know, I'm just so charmed by this, and there's a reason why in general I love middle grade, and this is just such good middle grade. So anyway, gonna read more. Good morning, everyone. Let's get a cup of coffee. So, funny story, it's not the morning, it's actually almost noon, but I have been up since early this morning, and I had like, you know, various appointments and meetings. I actually went to an appointment I had that's not till next week. So, cheers to that. Happens to the best of us, but I am now officially gonna sit down and actually do some reading. I have a very clear calendar today, namely because I had that appointment that I thought was this morning, but it's not till next week, as I just previously mentioned. So I got to move my schedule around a bit, which helps me out. I was able to read, oh, Matilda, she's so cute. I was able to read to page 100 yesterday. Percy is just getting settled into Camp Half-Blood, meaning Annabeth and the whole crew. Obviously I have a lot more reading I need to do. I have quite literally this and 4 other books I'm trying to read over the course of the next few days. So I'm gonna stop talking, get to reading, and now that Clay's out of town, I will have less distractions, you know? So let's read. All right, we're in the bird's eye view setting because I wanted to do a reading update. So I am 2/3 done with The Lightning Thief. I flew through the first like 200 plus pages of this book. I'm having so much fun reading this. And it's honestly like super holding up, very, very entertaining. So obviously this book follows Percy Jackson, a well-known and very beloved character. He's delightfully kind of stupid, which I think just makes him even more lovable in some ways. Very, very funny, but also in this series we meet Annabeth, who is a daughter of Athena, so smart, absolutely saving the day all the time, and then Grover, really emotionally in tuned best friend, kind of rounding out the group. This series is also just very entertaining because it utilizes a classic quest structure and trope, and that is basically true for all of the books in this series, and truth be told, a lot of the books that are related to Percy Jackson, which also makes sense because demigods have been going on quests since the beginning of time. So watching them have to overcome different trials and tribulations, meet different monsters, solve different riddles and mysteries, it's just a really great setup and premise, and book 1 is entertaining out the gate, and I'm just having a really good time reading this book. I love middle grade, and this continues to be, for sure, one of the most entertaining middle grade series I've ever read, from having the summer camp setting, all of the different characters, the relationships with the gods. It's just so good so far. So obviously on track to finish this today. This is the debut, if you will, and there's much more adventure to be found, but I feel like book 1 is entertaining pretty much immediately and also has emotional stakes immediately, which we love to see. So anyway, making great progress. I'll be finishing that this afternoon, and then we're moving on to book 2. Lunch is also a childhood favorite, and that is grilled cheese and tomato soup. Always hits, always is delicious. Also a quick bite, which I need so I can stay focused on my reading. Truly divine. The weather is really nice, so I've opted to take myself on a little quest, you know, my own little quest. And that quest is to go on a walk and enjoy the fresh air, maybe get myself a little treat. I have the audiobook of The Lightning Thief all queued up from the library, so let's go on an adventure, shall we? Alrighty folks, officially in the home stretch of The Lightning Thief, so we're gonna finish it up right now. Quick pause in the reading vlog because I'm off to book club tonight, which should be really fun. We're discussing Burnham Wood, which I recently featured in my wrap-up. I personally really liked it, but I'm excited to hear what everyone else thought about it. So I'm off. Matilda is a beanbag queen, which we just love to see. Hi friends, I'm officially home and laundered post book club. This was our first like official bookish meeting and discussion, and I have to say, I think it went really well, which is so exciting. It did go a bit later than I think I initially like planned in terms of my readathon, so it's pretty late at night, but luckily I did finish the Lightning Thief before I left, so I officially have a book down for this vlog, and this book is also like 377 pages. It's kind of long. So I'm going to just move on to The Sea of Monsters tonight, which is book 2, the Percy Jackson series. Also flicking through this, I think this one is not even 300 pages, so I'm hoping to read this one very, very quickly, but I loved The Lightning Thief. I thought it was a great setup to a very beloved, very entertaining middle grade series. Yes, were some elements like, could there have been more like fleshing out of some plot elements, some locations? Sure, definitely. But I also feel like it's not necessarily necessary because this is middle grade. It was entertaining, great characters, just great plot lines. Really, really had a blast reading it. So looking forward to see how the quest and prophecy continues to unfold in book 2. I also feel like the use case of prophecy and the mystery of the prophecy is such a great way to not only keep the books like connected as the different quests like begin to play out, but also just provide this air of mystery and being really exciting to like unpack, if you know what I mean. So anyway, we're moving on to the next installment. I don't know how much I love these new covers. I like the old ones. They were more distinct. Like these covers don't really look that different to me. I mean, they're beautiful, but like I feel like I have to like really read the titles to know even which one I'm picking up, you know? Versus I feel like the old ones were like so specific in their design. But anyway, I'm gonna go read now. Good morning, everyone. Matilda and I are just vibing. I wanted to do an update because I have read 100 pages of The Sea of Monsters so far, and I'm gonna read this book so fast. I feel like I'll have no issue finishing this book this afternoon. I only have 179 pages left. It's funny, I feel like I remembered a lot from The Lightning Thief, and I do, like, the plot of the second book is coming back as I'm reading it, but books 3 and 4, I feel like I remember the least about. So I'm excited to re-encounter those books when I get to them, probably starting later today. But let's talk about The Sea of Monsters. Book 2, I think if I recall correctly, this is my least favorite of the 5. Still very entertaining, obviously. We're introduced to Percy's half-brother, and we're going out on another quest, obviously. It still maintains all of the reasons why the series is just so fun and easy to read. The pace and the plot pacing is very, very fast. And everything is very compelling, like from the small moments that you experience with Percy at camp, different competitions, different character interactions, to just like the different concepts that Rick Riordan brings in for like quest locales. It's always fun to run into different mythical creatures, if you will, and also I feel like there's some emotional depth too, especially as it relates to Percy and his heritage and the complicated relations many of the demigods have with their parents, which I always appreciate that Rick includes. This one has to do with the sea, a little bit of a sea adventure. And also just like the setup is really funny. So I'm looking forward to completing this one today. Again, I still stand by, I think this one's my least favorite, but obviously I still loved it very much. What about you, Millie? How do you feel about it? Guess we'll have to wait and see. Good news, bad news. Good news, I finished work for the day. Bad news, I think I have a bit of a cold. Good news, called 911 tea, so we're making tea. That's what this sound is. And I also have Percy Jackson and The Sea of Monsters to keep me entertained and cozy. And I'm actually gonna go sit down right now and read a good chunk of this because obviously I need to start book 3 tonight to stay on track to finish full day number 2. And I think I'm gonna need 4 days to read all 5 books. But I'm gonna try to go a little faster, but now that I'm a little under the weather, I do need to prioritize my sleep. So it's like, I might give myself an extension, not that there is an actual deadline, but you get the vibe. So anyway, time to make tea, read more Sea of Monsters, and then getting comfies, have a good cozy evening together, which is what we all need, isn't it? Cheers. It's going down in this kitchen. We are making Spam tonight, the ultimate comfort food in this household. Also, I have about 50 pages left of Sea of Monsters, and I am liking it. I forgot all about Percy Jackson's half-brother. Like, how did I forget about his half-brother? Like, once the book started, I remembered very quickly, but like completely gone from my brain. So that sibling relationship is an interesting one. Obviously, a good lesson about bullying and all different types of things there. I remember reading it as a kid. I was like so sad for him. I'm sad for him as an adult too. I want everyone to be so much nicer to him. Also, what I appreciate too about Percy Jackson, and I feel like this was one of the first series that like really blew my mind with this, is like how each book really escalates itself with the plot. Which means every book is entertaining, but then it scales nicely on itself, and there's reveals and there's villains, but there are like dynamic things about the plot. Like the villains aren't just like all evil. Like sometimes they have a point, or you're gonna have empathy for how the villains end up there and not root for them, you know? I just feel like Percy Jackson really has it all. But Sea of Monsters is good. I love to see Percy in his element, obviously, in terms of the water and everything like that. Seeing him discover his various skills and just like the creativity and the humor of all of the different like ancient Greek interactions and things they have to overcome is just superb. Like it's so funny, it's so silly. Percy is like totally a seaweed brain, but he's a lovable seaweed brain, and it's just such a delight. So definitely on track to finish book 2. Gonna start book 3 tonight, and then we're gonna carry on to book 4. I feel like book 4 was my favorite, if I recall correctly, with the Labyrinth. I just really loved particularly that story and then its use within the Percy Jackson series, but we'll wait till I'm done with all of them before I give my final ranking, but this is so fun so far. And honestly, lining up reading a childhood favorite with being kind of under the weather is perfect, because there's no other thing I would rather be doing right now than reading Percy Jackson. So a true win. My priorities are very straight. We have Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters, a faux fireplace, and sour candy. You know, just doing the important things right now. I finished book 2, 2/5 done with my readathon. Honestly, the ending of Sea of Monsters is absolutely iconic, shocking. I remember being like jaw on the floor when I read this, and I completely forgot about the ending till I like basically encountered it again, and it was amazing the second time around. Whew! That ending, the pacing, the clever combat, the brother relationship, all of it was just so delightful in this book. I still think I like the lightning thief the most. I think there's some nostalgia points there, and I love the world building of Camp Half-Blood that you kind of have in book 1. I think I give the first one like a 4.5 and this one like a 4-star, but they're both amazing and they both hold up. But yeah, 2 books down. I'm gonna immediately jump into the 3rd book. Actually, I'm gonna remove my makeup, put some skincare on, then jump into the 3rd book. But we're gonna keep the good times rolling, as they say. So I'm pleased, definitely very pleased. So this French fry bookmark, we're going on to book 3. So cheers. Good morning, everyone. All done. Good morning, everyone. I have coffee. Cheers. And I have my book. Cheers. And I'm gonna sit down now and enjoy both of these. I forgot that Nico appears in book 3. Ah, incredible. I love that the cast is like slowly fleshed out in a really sort of methodical way, so you can fall in love with like each new character introduced and not feel like overwhelmed, I guess. So anyway, I'm gonna read now, but I love that Nico is here. So guess what? 50% of the way through the Titan's Curse, and I love the Titan's Curse. I forgot a lot. Like if you were like, Reagan, what's the Titan's Curse about before starting this vlog? Completely forgot everything, but it all comes rushing back when you start these books. First off, I'm obsessed with the Artemis crew. I always was since I was a kid, and so to run into the book where they're kind of introduced, like I was just like the girl group of it all. I wanted to be part of Artemis's crew growing up. I just love it. Again, as I sort of briefly mentioned, I feel like each book does such a great job introducing us to new characters and kind of fleshing out the world of Percy Jackson, and I think the Titan's Curse really begins to accelerate that in terms of adding additional side characters to meet, not only kind of unpack their complex like backstories and their motivations and all of these things, but I think just provides like a more dynamic nature to the story because we have more characters to root for, more characters to try to understand. And I think especially in this book with the introduction of Nico and his sister Bianca, and then obviously we have another character. It's the line of spoilers within Percy Jackson, I don't know, but I also really love Thalia's character as well too. I think she's particularly interesting. I especially think as a foil to Percy. I also think as the prophecy begins to kind of unfold further, the expectations and the pressure put on a group of young kids is a lot, and you begin to see some of that begin to play out. Again, it's so interesting because I read these books when I was a kid. Like I was reading these books as they were coming out, and there's pop culture, not very many, but there are a few like pop culture references in all of the books, and it's like from my childhood, and it's so funny. Like there's like a prom scene at the beginning of this book, and like they talk about the music being played, and I'm like, yeah, that was played at my middle school dance, I recall. So it's kind of funny. I do love that. But anyway, I'm flying through this book. I just really love the characters, and the quest in this is so good. Delightful, you know? I also appreciate too, and I feel like I've maybe said this a few times, but I do feel like each book
not only has like different like villains and obstacles they have to overcome, which I've mentioned a few times, but I also feel like each book has like a different primary like Greek god that's sort of helping them out or centering the quest in some way, which I always think is interesting too. So like you kind of, so in this one we have like Artemis and Apollo, and the last one we had Hermes. Is that how you say his name? The first one we had like Ares and a little bit of some of the other gods too. So anyway, I just love that we kind of have these really cool god introductions as we go along. It's really fun. So I'm gonna finish this book this morning, no problem, and then move on to book 4 today. We're really trying to speed this up a bit as I'm making my way to book 5 to wrap up the entire series. Each book gets easier and easier to read because the plot really does get rather accelerated. And again, it's not just like each book has a contained like beginning and end. Like obviously there are things specific to each book, but the overall issue keeps ballooning. So larger tension and intrigue throughout the entire series. So anyway, this is where we're at. Almost done with book 3. In the home stretch officially, I have like 40 pages left of this book, and then we're moving on to book 4. But a quick lunch break. I ordered takeout because I thought I deserved it because I've been really good cooking for myself. I got some udon, which I cannot wait to eat. I'm about to go get dressed, I promise. But 3rd book complete, and my favorite of all of the ones I've read so far. It was so fast-paced, it was so interesting, great plot twist, great character development, and just the intensity of everything definitely just increasing. Just the combination of like lovable characters, such a fun and interesting concept, absolutely stellar. I mean, it's been a delight to reread these, and I can't believe it's been so long. I haven't read this since I was a kid, since this came out, literally, since this book came out. I have not reread it. May 2007, TBT, baby. TBT. But anyway, we're gonna just move on to book 4. I'm going to do my skincare, get dressed, and then just keep reading. We gotta keep reading, we gotta keep going. We're in the home stretch here. My plan is to finish book 4 today and then read book 5 tomorrow and wrap up this reading marathon situation that's going on. So we're 3/5 done. And this was the best one yet. I'd give this one like a 4.5, 5 out of 5 stars, middle grade wise. Fantastic. Matilda on her own quest and journey of getting the most sunshine possible, which we respect. Documentation that I, in fact, got dressed. And it's a cute little spring cottagecore number we love. I couldn't zip it up all the way. So I'm just gonna leave it like that until I see my friend and she can finish me off. But look at that. Dressed, ready to go. Coffee has been reheated. I'm gonna do the ceremonial changing of the guards of the French fry bookmark. Are these in order properly? Yes. The Battle of the Labyrinth. I think this is my favorite. I think I love book 3, but Annabeth isn't in it a lot, so I think, you know, it could never be number 1. So I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. Hello friends, I have laundered, but I wanted to talk about the Battle of the Labyrinth because I have started it and I have just flown through it. I think this is going to continue to be my favorite book of the series. I just think its placement and the plot arc is always just so satisfying. I don't know about you guys, but like final books in the series I tend to enjoy, and the final book of the Percy Jackson series is fantastic, but the build up to the final plot situation is always just the best, at least for me personally, and that is what the Battle of the Labyrinth has to offer. Plus, it just has one of the coolest settings, this growing, expanding labyrinth. Greek tale, it was always one of my favorites, and how Rick Riordan kind of brings it to life. This sort of modern setting is just so cool. It's so cool then, it's so cool now. Also, just as like a Percy Annabeth situation, we see their relationship begin to develop, and I think you get a lot more emotional depth starting in the last one, and you see that carry through the back half of the series. The series really grows up with the main character, which I also like, while still keeping all of the humor and fun antics that you would expect within Percy Jackson. It's just such a clever idea, and I think just like starting to see the endgame pieces come together is just fantastic and makes this book so hard to put down. Obviously, we also have Nico, who I love as a character, and I also feel like his introduction in this series like is another like emotional one. Like, this is a young kid having to go through something so difficult, process it, and the people he has to rely on are also other kids. So it's like they don't really have the emotional intelligence. Like they're trying their best, obviously, but to like help Nico understand and face and process the feelings that he's feeling too. So it's just, you know, there's a lot happening here, and it's all very, very good. And it's just so dang entertaining. But the maze is just so cool. It's also starting to be the introduction of like the invention element that Rick Riordan definitely expands on in other series, obviously, especially the Heroes of Olympus series. But, you know, thinking about like how Greek armor and Greek innovation that feels ancient can like take on itself within a modern demigod-esque story. Like that element I feel like is kind of has sprinkles in like other books, but much more center stage in this one. And then obviously in later series takes a huge center stage with the whole robotic dragon that enters the picture. But anyway, it's just so freaking entertaining and so intense. And I flew through a good chunk of this book. So we're on the home stretch to finish this tonight. And then obviously Clay's coming back in town. And then I will finish the last book tomorrow. And then we'll wrap this whole thing up. But we're on book 4, people. Excellent progress. Hello, I'm in bed. And we're about to finish Battle of the Labyrinth. I have 100 pages left of this book. Let's talk about it. I worry I'm being repetitive because I really just enjoyed all of these books for all of the same reasons, like all of the characters, the plot lines, but this one especially, it's interesting how Rick Riordan's also able to keep things fresh. It could, obviously the structure of all of the books are pretty much the same, some type of quest, obstacles, solution, oh no, there's still something larger going on, but the solutions are always good and different, which I think he persists throughout all of his books, which why they're all so readable, which I think prevents like the structure from feeling repetitive, but instead like homey and also a part of just the universe of Percy Jackson. It makes sense. Everyone's going on quests. It's a Greek tale and myth, you know? 4th book is still continuing to be so flippin' good. Even the cover of this is even good. And I don't really love the new edition covers of these that much. I have a literary fiction retelling of the characters that surround this maze, and they're all referenced within this book. But it'd be so interesting to have like more of an in-depth retelling of that story. So I'm very intrigued to possibly pick that book up soon. Again, I have it on my shelf already too. So also knocking one off the old TBR. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna get to reading because if I don't read, I'm gonna fall asleep, and that's no good either. Good morning. I have a blueberry cake donut and some coffee, and Matilda and I are gonna go read. It's so gloomy outside this morning. I'm hoping it clears up a bit because I do need to get some other stuff done, but for now I'm enjoying the rainy vibes. Hi friends, I owe you a reading update, so let's chat. So I have finished The Battle of the Labyrinth. I finished this book last night. I loved it. It's also so interesting to marathon this whole series because I really feel like you can see kind of the intensity growing and growing and growing with each book. The spirit stays the same, but it definitely gets darker. Percy Jackson is really interesting because it starts out true middle grade, but then as Percy gets older, the series sort of ages up with him, and I would say it kind of ends in a murky ground between middle grade and YA, which I think is interesting. But yeah, the thing I want to say too is I feel like Rick Riordan can write combat really well. Most of the series, we don't really get a lot of large scale battle scenes, but more so like individual one-on-one combat moments, or like Percy against a few monsters, or just trying to like escape a really dangerous situation. But with the escalation of the plot with books 4 and 5, large scale conflict like war and strategy definitely becomes more center stage, and I'm just impressed with Rick's writing in regards to that. But yeah, I finished book 4. It ended so intensely, and then obviously the plot begins to progress in the final and concluding novel, book 5. The funny thing about book 5, and which in general, just like last books in series, they tend to be my least favorite, but like I've already read 100 pages of this book and it's so intense I could not put it down. I might have to rethink my perspective on this. As I mentioned, it's so dark, like sad, and we've had a lot of sad moments throughout the series. But I think just like the intensity of the war element of this is like not something that Rick Riordan is really trying to shy away from. Like showcasing the sacrifice a lot of these young demigods have to make, which again lines up with the stories and the histories of demigods in like ancient Greece, is something he's definitely including within this, and it's heartbreaking. And I also think reading this as a kid, like maybe I think I was like 14 or 15 when this book came out, I was really just in love with Percy, but like it felt intense, but I was their peers. But reading this as an adult now, like seeing all these young kids put so much on the line to try to save the world is so sad. And like, I don't know, obviously they're trying their best, they're so brave, but it's just like, adults, like where are the adults? But this book is so good so far, seeing like the strategy and the teamwork, and obviously like Percy and Annabeth's miscommunication is just, there's so much happening here. We finally know like the final prophecy. We're finally seeing Percy take on his greatest fight yet, and also are going on a bit of a journey to try to unpack and understand even the origin of the conflict itself, which I think is interesting. Prophecy has always been a huge part of this series, and that is a thread that has stayed consistent throughout this book. So prophecy, again, taking center stage in the last one not only makes sense, but I feel like is the right move overall. I love it. I love it so much. It's going to be intense and just so fast paced. Like this, I sat down and just like flew through this, and I was like honestly tearing up. It's intense. Oh my gosh, Rick. But I'm gonna get changed, and Clay's back, so I think we're gonna go walk and get some lunch, and then we're gonna come back, focus. Look at Millie. It's officially the weekend, so I just have some house chores, but predominantly the focus of today is to finish this book. We're truly in the home stretch. Look at these. Look at the pages I've officially read. I've read all of this over the past like 4 days, and we're making our way through this, and then by the end of this video all of this will have been read. So definitely fixing my reading goal number for this year. I've been a bit behind, but 5 books in the first part of May will definitely help a girl out. But anyway, that's my reading update. Quick lunch break, and guess who's back? I have finished my errands for the day, so we are relaxing. Candle is lit, and I am gonna read another chunk of The Last Olympian. It's so good. I forgot how much the underworld was a part of this book, and I always love when we visit the underworld at any capacity. The river Styx, that whole situation is just too flippin' good, and all the preparation. I'm flying through this. It's too soon to say, but I am loving this book. Maybe it's my favorite. I don't even know. It's so hard to pick. Guys, I finished all of the books. Yes, that's right. I finished The Last Olympian last night, and I cried. I got emotional reading the end of this book. It was such a stunning conclusion, so much action. It was thoughtful. I just love Percy and all of his friends so much, but honestly, like the plot progression of the entire series, but also the finale, was incredibly impressive. I might even say this is my favorite book of the entire series, but obviously as a whole, it was such a stunning reread experience, and just seeing and honestly immersing myself in a lot of ways. The plot progression of the entire thing built on itself. The series just got bigger and bigger with each installment. Each one got better and better. More things were introduced, but like the heart of the story, the joy and the humor of the story was never lost, even as it got darker. And boy, did it get darker. Like the last tail end of the series, like the last 3 books especially, very dark. All in all, I read a total of 1,708 pages over the last 5 days, I want to say, which I want to say is pretty impressive. Like, I'm starting the month of May with quite the dent off the old TBR. But I also, of course, want to give a shout out to this video sponsor, which is Moomins. Once again, big thank you to them to not only sponsoring this video, but also inspiring this video. Moomins was such a love of my childhood, and I still love it to this day. And with this new collection that is available now in Barnes & Noble, in-store and online, which I'll have linked down below if you guys want to check it out, I just felt so inspired to continue to check out some of my childhood favorites and just allow myself to live in that space. And it was just so joyous and comforting, which I feel like Moomins would appreciate and celebrate as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog, and I will see you soon with another one soon. Goodbye!